Let's talk about traffic collision reports. Can they be helpful? What happens if you found to be at fault for the accident in the traffic collision report? Can a party use a traffic collision report to show fault during trial? A traffic collision report is prepared by law enforcement who comes to see an accident to gather information about the accident itself. It generally includes the names of the parties involved, the location of the accident, the time of the accident, any witnesses, and sometimes it talks about any potential injuries. Now, depending on the type of accident and its severity, a traffic collision report could be very minimal, meaning no more than 3 pages, or it could be hundreds of pages long if it involves multiple parties and a fatality. Generally speaking, unless an officer actually witnesses the accident, anything that he or she prepares on the traffic collision report itself is secondhand, meaning they're done by witness information. And again, depending on the severity of the incident, there may be some photographs taken, would be skid marks, measurements of skid marks, or any other markings that would show how an accident happened or who may be at fault for the accident. A traffic collision report can be helpful under certain circumstances. For example, you enter an accident and the other party refuses to give his or her information to you. So the officer would come to the scene and take that person's information. So that is helpful. It can also be helpful if the accident happens at an intersection where each party may claim at some point that the other side ran a red light while they entered into the intersection on a green light. Oftentimes, the party who's responsible will admit to the officer in the very beginning that he or she ran a red light or they were not paying attention and didn't notice the light coming into the intersection. But they will change their mind later on to say, I had the green light. So it's important to have an officer come to the scene of the accident and have the other party admit that either they ran the red light or they did not know what the color of the light was when they entered into the intersection. So in those instances, having a traffic collision report will be helpful. So what happens if the officer who's preparing the report finds you to be the person at fault for the accident? That doesn't necessarily mean that is the determinative factor of who's at fault. Remember, the officer doesn't have first-hand information. His or her information comes from what they gather at the scene of the accident. Indeed, we have seen many errors in traffic collision reports. One example happened in a recent case. Our client was the front car in a 3-car accident, but in the officer's report, she was the car at the very bottom, meaning she is the one, according to the officer, who caused the accident. So they're not always correct. So there are ways to attack a traffic collision report if you're found to be at fault for the accident. Which law enforcement office would be involved in the accident? It depends on your location. If you're out here in Santa Clarita, it would be the LA County Sheriff's Department. If you're in the San Fernando Valley or other parts of Los Angeles, it could be the LAPD. If you're on the freeway, naturally, it's the California Highway Patrol. If you're in cities such as Burbank, Glendale, or Pasadena, they have their own police department, which means that is the appropriate party you need to contact for them to come out and prepare a traffic collision report. Now, can a traffic collision report be used as evidence of fault at trial? The answer is no, because it is a hearsay statement. It is a written statement prepared by the officer outside of court, so that the report itself cannot be used as evidence at trial. However, an officer can use the report prepared by him or her at trial to refresh his or her memory during trial. This would normally be refreshing the officer's memory as to what any of the parties said after the accident at the scene, or any witnesses that may have been at the scene and what he or she was told by that particular witness. It may also refresh the officer's memory as to whether or not there was any skid marks at the scene of the accident. So a traffic collision report is useful for gathering evidence and information about the parties. One thing that should be said is that the traffic collision report can be used by an expert by either side to help determine fault of the accident. So, should you ask for traffic collision report after an accident? The answer is generally yes. Don't be worried about what the traffic collision report may show. The important thing is you want the evidence to be gathered by the officer that would include the party's information and any information about the scene of the accident, including skid marks. If you're in an accident, please give us a call and we can help you throughout the case. My name is Mason Rashtian. We meet our clients by accident.